Good morning. Good morning. Good morning and Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everyone. We made it to 2022. So good morning. I welcome you. Father, I welcome you in this place. I welcome you in this broadcast. Holy Spirit, I invite you to speak to our hearts and to speak into our lives and to teach us and show us new things today. And I welcome you if you're watching this either on the on the live or just even on the replay. I welcome you. It's so good to be back. It's so good to be here and to be able to share a couple of things from the Psalms. We're going to be talking about Psalm 31 today. And there's a lot to unpack in this psalm, but we're probably going to take it in two steps or into 2 days because it's just so much to talk about and so much that David shared and poured his heart into. And so we want to just make sure that we cover whatever it is that God wants us to learn. Because all of this is for us to learn. We don't read Psalms just for the fun of it. We are reading because we are learning and we are believing God to speak to us in this season. Good morning, Abby. Blessings and Happy New Year to you, my dear friend. Thank you for being with us on this lovely Tuesday morning, January 4th. It is the day that the Lord has made, and we are grateful to be alive and well in it. All right, I am diving in to Psalm 31. Psalm 31. It says, for the director of music, a psalm of David. Again, we know that when it says to the director of music, we know that this psalm was a song that was sung in temple for worship. And many scholars have said that this particular psalm was a prayer of deliverance. And the reason why David wrote it and sung about it was because there was a powerful conspiracy against him. You know, his enemies were out to get him, and everyone that he knew abandoned him. And so he wrote this psalm, and ironically, Jesus quoted a line from this psalm, and we'll get to it. We'll see what that line is. But Jesus quoted this line because he too faced a powerful conspiracy against him. And so at one time or another, we will face those moments where people are gonna conspire against us, whether it's at work, whether it's family members, whether it's friendships that are trying to undermine us and undermine the relationships that we have with other people because of jealousy or whatever. And we may have no one to turn to. And so this is why David wrote this, because he was surrounded by people that were against him, and he had no one to turn to but God. But God, he had to turn to the Lord. And so that's why this prayer, this psalm, this song, this prayer song was powerful, because it talked about depending and trusting on the Lord. Okay, so verse 1 and verse 2. In you, Lord, I have taken refuge. Let me never be put to shame. Deliver me in your righteousness. Turn your ear to me. Come quickly to my rescue. Be my rock of refuge, a strong fortress to save me. And so right there, David just lays it out, what's happening. Be my rescue. Don't let my trust in you be put to shame. Deliver me, right? He's saying all these things. He's saying, vindicate me, rescue me, protect me. Turn your ear and come quickly to me. Come to my rescue. Be a strong fortress. All of these things David is just putting out right away, because he is in need of help, right? He's in need of help. And so he says be a strong fortress, be my rock of refuge, a strong fortress to save me. And I believe it was a week or two ago, we were talking about that, about a stronghold and what is a stronghold and what it represents. And a stronghold is a fortress, right? A fortress is a place that can't be penetrated. It's a fortified place. And in Psalm 27, David prayed and said, God is a fortress for those who serve him, right? His anointed ones. God is a fortress to them. And so David was afraid, and we could see that he was afraid here. And he was being surrounded by all those who wanted to take him out. And to see David afraid and feeling like, God, I need you to protect me, because if you don't protect me, if you don't surround me like a fortress, they're going to come and tear me up. They're going to tear me up. They're going to tear me down. And so this was not a time for God to delay. And so verse 3, since you are my rock and my fortress, for the sake of your name, lead and guide me. And so David, of course, was saying, God, since you are my rock, since you're my fortress, I need you to lead and guide me, right? Because a fortress defends and it protects and it gives deliverance. But he was saying, God, I also need you to lead me and guide me. Show me what to do. Show me where to hide. Show me where to go, right? Be my fortress, protect me, deliver me, hide me from this attack of the enemy. And wouldn't you be less afraid every time you face a battle if you knew that God was your fortress, right? If you knew God is your fortress, wouldn't you be less afraid? And David knew the Lord defended him and protected him in the past, but now he was in need of that same protection again. And how many times do we encounter battles in our lives where we don't have the defense in ourselves to fight, right? We can't fight it alone. We need somebody by our side. We always need somebody by our side, but we won't always have people on our side. And that's why we have to trust in the Lord. And that's what David was doing. He had to trust in God because he knew that he just didn't have it on his own. And so he says to him, since you are my rock and my fortress, he already knew God established this in his life, that he had been his rock, that he could climb up on him and be, in a safe place. He said, lead me and guide me. In verse 4, keep me from the trap that is set for me, for you are my refuge. Keep me from the trap that is set for me. In other words, another translation says, take me out of the net they have hidden for me, for you are my refuge. Take me out of the net. Keep me free from the trap. What's important here, and what I felt that stood out to me, is that David knew that there was a trap set for him. They were laying out a trap for him. He wasn't naive. He wasn't clueless about what they were not doing or doing. He knew what was going on. He knew what was going on. And so he wasn't naive. He knew that his enemies were laying a trap for him. They were trying to see how they can trap him. And so we need to have eyes to see what the enemy is planning against us. We can't be caught off guard. You cannot be caught off guard. But you know what? Many times we are caught off guard. We are caught off guard. Why? What is the reason? Why do we get caught off guard? And we don't see when the enemy's planning something against us. And we're surprised. And we're like, oh my gosh, I didn't see this coming. We should have seen it coming. We should have known, right? And so the number one reason why we're sometimes caught off guard and the enemy surprises us, does surprise ambushes against us, is because we're not walking in step with the Lord. Right? We are so distracted by life, and there's so much happening with our lives, and there's so many things that we're paying attention to, or maybe not paying attention to as much as we should. And seeking the Lord is maybe not a priority. And so an attack comes out of nowhere and we didn't see it coming. Sorry. So David is saying, keep me free from the trap that is set before me. It's because he knows they're planning something. But when we walk in step with the Lord, he's going to reveal those things that the enemy is doing so that we're prepared and we can be kept free from the attack. We can be set free from that trap that is being put before us. We shouldn't be outsmarted by the enemy. We should never, ever be outsmarted by the enemy. And if we're walking in step with the Lord, then we're not going to be outsmarted. All right. So let me just share this from 2 Corinthians 2:11. Paul was telling the Corinthians, if you forgive anyone, I also forgive them. And if I have forgiven anything, I have forgiven them in the presence of Christ for your sake. And this is a key verse here. In order that Satan may not outwit us, for we are not unaware of his schemes. That's good. That is good. That is good. Paul, that was very good. That Satan should not outwit us because we are not unaware of his schemes. So when David is saying, keep me free from the trap that is set for me, for you are my refuge, God can keep us, right? He can keep us from being caught in the trap of the enemy, right? We should never be playing defense. We should be playing offense, right? We're ahead. We're 2 steps ahead. We're 10 steps ahead. The worst place to be is defense, because then you're just protecting what's already should have been protected. Right. And so we shouldn't wait and react when we are attacked. We should be ahead of the attack. Right. So, and also in 1 Peter 5:8, it says, be sober-minded and alert, because your adversary, the devil, he prowls around like a roaring lion seeking someone to devour. So the word of God is telling us, be sober-minded and alert, so that the enemy, who's the devil, right, who roars, he's roaring around like a lion looking to devour, so he doesn't outwit us. That is how we are kept from the trap of the enemy. And that is how we are kept. So again, David said it, keep me free from the trap that is set for me. He understood he can't be playing like, sitting back and just allowing the enemy to come at him with whatever. We need to be ahead. We need to be 10 steps knowing what the enemy is doing, right? Nations understand what they're doing. That's why nations, they have surveillances and they have, the CIA and all of this stuff, because they're constantly on the search, looking to see what the enemy is up to so that they can be prepared. And at times our nations was prepared, and at other times we weren't. We got surprise attacks on our soil because maybe we didn't see something coming. And it's the same thing in our lives. It's the same thing. The enemy is always setting traps for us. Traps are not easily visible, right? They are where you least expect them. And again, I'm going to repeat what Paul said in 2 Corinthians. He said, that if you forgive anyone, then I forgive them too. And he says, and if I have forgiven anything, I've done it in the presence of the Lord. in order that Satan should not outwit us, for we are not unaware of his schemes. And so what's a trap? A trap could be unforgiveness. Unforgiveness can be a trap, right? If somebody offends you and hurts you, or, when you're little, the enemy tries to trap you, right? And he tries to harm us when we're young and when we're innocent. And those things we carry along the way with us as we grow up. And God will heal us of those things, right? But then as we are adults and we become free and we're good from certain things, and then something else happens and we get offended, and unforgiveness begins to come in and take root. It's a trap. It's a trap. If we don't quickly forgive, right, that hurt, that offense is going to grow into something bigger and bigger and bigger. It turns to hate, and hate is not not the place that you want to be in. Hating is the complete opposite of God, right? And so we need to be careful with that. Unforgiveness is a trap. Maybe you're in need of companionship and you develop a friendship with someone of the opposite sex, and you're constantly talking to them and you're building something, but then you realize this person is not your equal. They're not compatible to you. They don't walk the same way that you do. They have a couple of little red flags that you're noticing. Might be a trap. It could be a trap. Or maybe someone at work that you're talking to and you're gossiping, right? Or gossiping about whomever, the manager, the boss, whatever. And you're sitting there listening into these juicy stories and you're getting all the tea. It's a trap. Be careful with the trap. Or maybe, negative comments that you constantly say to yourself, or you're putting other people down. It's a trap. Be careful. Be careful with those. They're traps. And so again, David said, keep me from the trap that is set for me. In this season, let's recognize the traps of the enemy. Let's recognize them and not be caught off guard. Let's not be caught off guard, because the enemy is trying to trap us with things in our lives so that when we fall in, it's hard to get out. But know that God will always rescue us when we cry out to him. And so that's why David was being proactive. He was like, keep me from the trap. All right. So we got that, right? We know that we're going to be looking out for traps of the enemy. Okay, let's move on. Verse 5. Into your hands I commit my spirit. Deliver me, Lord, my faithful God. Into your hands I commit my spirit. Where have we heard this? Where have we heard it? All right, if you guessed it, then you're right. Jesus said this line. This is the line that he quoted on the cross. Into your hands I commit my spirit. Deliver me, Lord, my faithful God. And so David said this and Jesus quoted it, right? You didn't know that when Jesus said this, he quoted it from Psalm 31, verse 5. And if David and Jesus completely entrusted themselves to the Lord into the hands of the Father, then how much more do we have to do so? Into your hands I commit my spirit. Yeah, we need to do that. We need to commit our spirit into the hands of the Lord, because he's so faithful. And he said it, my faithful God, my faithful God. Okay, verse 6. Now, verse 6, Verse 6, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to give you a disclaimer. It's going to touch a few buttons. It's going to touch a few buttons, but it needs to be said. Verse 6, David said, I hate those. And we said it before, hate is such a strong word. We should not be at that place. But David is saying, I hate those who cling to worthless idols. As for me, I trust in the Lord. I hate those who cling to worthless idols. As for me, I trust in the Lord. And that's a pretty strong sentiment for David to say, but he was being honest. He was being honest. There are those who trust in idols to deliver them. And idols can't save. They can't. Why can't they save? Because they're man-made. Idols are man-made. In case you didn't know, they are man-made. You know, someone has to design and create an idol, right? These little things that you put in your homes or you put on your body, they're man-made. And so people use them. People use idols to keep peace in the home, right? Or to ward off evil spirits in the home. Or better yet, to pray to this little thing, this little statue. They ask for blessings, or they'll ask for protection, right? But an idol has eyes and can't see, right? It has ears, but it can't hear. It has a mouth and it cannot speak. Why? Because it was designed by an artist, a human artist. It didn't create itself. It was created to represent a God or a saint or an angelic being, but it has no breath of life. The designer can design the outside and make it pretty and make it whatever, but it can't give it a spirit. It can't give it life. It's lifeless. And so David was saying, I hate those who cling to worthless idols. He just let them know, I hate those who cling to worthless idols. As for me, I trust in the Lord. And Pastor Charles was talking about this on Sunday. And he was talking about how God told him that he had to let go of traditions, right? Because we all carry influences and traditions that are from our cultures that we grew up, right? I remember a time when I was young, very, very young, and we had this little thing in the house. I can't remember if it was a saint or something. And I remember facing something in my house and I was so scared. And I went to this thing because I had seen it done. I had seen that you went to this statue and you prayed to it and you asked it for protection. And I remember doing that and praying to it, not knowing that I could just go to the Father who's real. And so we all follow these traditions because that's what we know. We grew up with that. But many of those traditions were passed down from like our descendants, like our ancestors, right? Who had idolatrous traditions. They didn't know the true and living God. And so they passed these down to us. And Pastor Charles, when he talked about this on Sunday, he was reminding us, and he reminded us, and that's why I labeled this live, can baby bracelets protect? Are they idolatrous? And Pastor Charles reminded us of that, you know, that in our Hispanic culture, maybe there's other cultures too, but I know I can speak for the Hispanic culture because that's where I grew up. You know, we put this little bracelet, the little bracelet on the baby, and we use that to protect the baby, right? The evil eye, from the evil eye. And it's like, oh, look how cute, you know, it's the cutest thing, like baby looks cool with it. But let me tell you, my friends, it is a false idol. A piece of jewelry can't protect a baby from evil. Jewelry has no power. The only power it would have is if it's given, if it came from another source. And let's be honest, God is not going to transfer his great power to a little bead. His blessing is not in that. So God's power, if God's power is not transferred to a bead to protect, then where is it getting power from? If a man has created it, right? So putting like, using an object to protect, give peace or whatever, is denying the power of God. It's saying that something that has no power suddenly has power, and it doesn't. And in Romans 1:23, it says, although they claimed to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of God, the glory of the immortal God, for an image of mortal man and birds and animals and reptiles. Therefore, God gave them over in the desires of their hearts to impurity, for the dishonoring of their bodies with one another. Right? And also in Psalm 135, verses 15 and 18, it says, the idols of the nations are silver and gold, made by the hands of men. The idols of the nations are silver and gold, made by the hands of man. They have mouths but cannot speak. They have eyes but cannot see. They have ears but cannot hear. Nor is there breath in their mouths. Those who make them are like them. And that's wild, right? Those who make them will be like them. And so will all who trust in them. Breathless, lifeless. You have eyes, but you won't be able to see. That's crazy. God is saying that if those that depend on idols become like the idols, you become lifeless. You can't see, you can't hear, you can't speak, because you're not walking in truth. And so we just have to be careful, right? Because we can say, oh, the people do that, right? People are doing that. But let's be mindful that we're not trusting in idols, right? Because we can trust in our own idols. They may not have to be man-made little things, right? An idol can be anything that goes before God. So, and Pastor Charles was saying this again on Sunday, that if you're going through a situation, and God is not the first person you're calling everybody else for advice, and, oh, I need, can you help me? That can be an idol. It can be an idol in our lives. When we're facing things and we're not reaching out to God first, and like he said, it's not wrong to call people and say, can you help me pray? I'm going through something. But God is looking for us to go to him first. That's why David said, keep me free from the trap that is set for me. For you are my refuge. Into your hands I commit my spirit. Deliver me, Lord, my faithful God. He was putting everything in God's hands. I hate those who cling to worthless idols. As for me, I trust in the Lord. So he's trusting in the Lord. He's calling God faithful, and he's asking God to keep him from the traps that people set before him. And I have run out of time. There's so much more that needs to be said, but I am going to stop this right here. And we will pick up, God willing, tomorrow, verse 7. We will pick up from verse 7. There's 24 verses. So we have a little bit of going through to do. But I hope that this was helpful. I hope that this part was helpful, that we learn to trust in the Lord, that we learn not to trust in idols, that we learn that power and glory and blessing and protection all comes from God. It doesn't come from any other source. It doesn't come from an idol. It doesn't come from something that was man-made. It comes from God. And if we go to him, we'll be okay. We will be okay. So I'm going to leave it there. I bless you. I pray blessing over you today. I pray that God will reveal his true purpose for your life and that you would walk in his purpose today, this day of 2022, that you would walk in your purpose. So I will be back, God willing, tomorrow. And yeah, just stay blessed. Just stay blessed. May everything that you do today prosper in Jesus' name. Have a great, great, great day. Mwah. Blessings.